Hello and welcome to Football Daily, where today we're looking at 10 transfers that almost happened. Number 10. Gareth Bale to Birmingham. 2013 saw Gareth Bale become the most expensive footballer in history as he completed a €100 million move from Spurs to Real Madrid. But just 4 years earlier, the Welshman could well have been on the way out of White Hart Lane. He was wanted by Birmingham City, who at the time were languishing in 17th in the Premier League. They had, though, just been bought by Hong Kong businessman Carson Young, who had promised the Blues £20 to £40 million to spend in their bid for survival. And the name top of Alex McLeish's list was Gareth Bale, who had taken 25 matches to be on the winning side in the Premier League with Spurs. Harry Redknapp was open to letting the 20-year-old get some game time on loan with an option for the St Andrews club to buy for £3 million, less than the £5 million he was bought for 2 years earlier. However, injury issues for the Lilywhites meant the future King of the Jungle ultimately decided to keep Bale as cover. The rest, as they say, is history, as Bale went on to win the PFA Player of the Year award twice, as well as 4 Champions Leagues following his move to Spain. Number 9. Medhi Benatia to Blackpool. Medhi Benatia has played for some of Europe's biggest clubs, including Bayern Munich, Juventus and Roma, winning the Bundesliga and Serie A, and last summer he captained Morocco to their first World Cup this century. But his career almost went on an entirely different trajectory when Ian Holloway tried to sign him in 2009. At the time, Holloway managed Blackpool, who were coming off the back of an underwhelming season where they finished 16th in the Championship. Meanwhile, Benatia was a fresh-faced 22-year-old and had completed his first season with Clermont in Ligue 2 after being released by Marseille. Now, the story goes that Ollie was keen on signing the Moroccan and took his recommendation to the Blackpool board. However, the infamously frugal and extremely unpopular Carl Oyston didn't want to front the measly fee of £100,000 for the centre-back. Instead of donning the tangerine of Blackpool, Benatia moved on a free to Udinese on the way to becoming one of the continent's most underrated defenders. And as much as the Seasiders would have enjoyed him, they still managed to realise their Premier League dream through the playoffs that very season. Before we go on to number 8, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this video and hit the notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Number 8. Kaká to Manchester City. Having been bought by their Abu Dhabi overlords in the summer of 2008, Manchester City were keen to splash the cash to show their intent in becoming a force in English football. They had of course signed Robinho for a British record fee of £32.5 million, but his impact wasn't as great as anticipated, leading the citizens to make a simply outrageous move for his compatriot Kaká. The club put forward an offer to AC Milan worth £91 million, almost double the then transfer record held by Zinedine Zidane. This would have included a wage of £500,000 a week, which even a decade later would have seen Kaká among the highest earners in football. Berlusconi and Milan accepted the enormous bid, leaving the decision down to the Brazilian himself. Admitting the situation messed him up, the 2007 Ballon d'Or winner wasn't even aware of City's interest until a phone call came from Milan saying they'd accepted an offer from the Sky Blues, even being told his club were keen to do the deal. However, it was clear that Kaká had made up his mind when he appeared on the balcony of his City apartment and held aloft his Milan shirt. He did, however, still make a world record move to Real Madrid just 6 months later. Number 7. Pep Guardiola to Wigan. The 2005-06 season was a memorable one for fans of Wigan Athletic, as they finished in the top half of the Premier League in their debut campaign, even sitting as high as second in mid-November. Just imagine how much better they could have fared had they secured the signature of Pep Guardiola, at the time one of football's burgeoning minds. Manager Paul Jewell recounted how he was extremely impressed with Pep's knowledge of the club and their style of football, and harboured strong hopes of signing the 34-year-old Spaniard. But just 2 years before his first management role, Guardiola made the move to Dorados in Mexico instead. Jewell says this was down to a more lucrative offer, but the former Barcelona icon says something else stopped him rocking up in Lancashire. He claims he was not good enough to play in the Premier League, also adding that then Man City boss Stuart Pearce turned down the opportunity to sign him that same summer. We know he was aging out, but we're sure this is just Pep covering himself. After all, we can't imagine Paul Jewell would have stuck with Jimmy Bullard and Lee McCulloch over the former Spanish international. Number 6. Eric Cantona to Sheffield Wednesday. In 1991, Eric Cantona was known as a hot-headed Frenchman who, despite his mercurial talent, had his problems both on and off the field. After disagreeing with a referee's decision whilst at Nîmes, Cantona threw the ball at the official and was handed a 2-month ban, increasing after he abused the members of the disciplinary panel. Then, aged just 25, he announced his retirement. The French national manager Michel Platini was a fan of Cantona's and convinced him to keep playing and suggested a move to England. After Graham Souness and Liverpool rejected the chance to sign him, Sheffield Wednesday took him on trial. He only featured once though for Trevor Francis's side in a 6-a-side indoor-friendly tournament. Francis was suitably impressed, offering Cantona a further week on trial and the opportunity to actually play on grass, but the Frenchman turned him down, instead completing a move to Yorkshire neighbours Leeds United. Wednesday were in the second tier at the time and probably couldn't afford King Eric's wage demands nor the £900,000 fee demanded by Nîmes. Cantona may only have spent 2 days in the Steel City, but it jump-started his career as he became an icon of the English game. Number 5. Rivaldo to Bolton. In the early noughties, a Sam Allardyce-inspired Bolton Wanderers were known for signing aged players with international reputations, like JJ Okocha, Yuri Djurkaeff and Mario Jardel. They very nearly trumped all of that though when, in 2004, Rivaldo held talks with the Lancashire club over a potential move to the Premier League. Even more ridiculously, the transfer almost made sense. Bolton were about to finish 8th, just 3 points off European football, while the 2002 World Cup winner had been frozen out at AC Milan, spending early 2004 on loan at Cruzeiro in Brazil. It's clear that Big Sam left quite an impression on Rivaldo, with the Brazilian claiming, "I have never seen a club that wanted me so much," apparently turning down more lucrative offers from Celtic and the Middle East. But despite a contract offering over £1 million a year in wages, the former Barca star appeared to give Bolton the cold shoulder before eventually signing for Greek powerhouses Olympiakos. Allardyce may have led his side to European qualification the following season, but we can't help but wonder how a front line of Rivaldo, Kevin Davis and El Hadji Diouf would have fared on the pitch. Number 4. Neymar to West Ham. The year was 2010, and 18-year-old Neymar had burst onto the Brazilian football scene and scored 14 goals in 19 matches in the Campeonato Paulista, and halfway into his most prolific season for Santos, where he'd go on to net 42 goals in all competitions. Unsurprisingly, he was attracting attention from Europe. Bizarrely, Man City had first refusal on the teenager, but the first team to lodge an official bid, West Ham United. Yes, that's right, despite finishing 17th the prior season and hiring Avram Grant to replace a sacked Gianfranco Zola, Davids, Gold and Sullivan thought they could bring the slight attacker to East London. The £16 million move would have more than doubled the Hammers' record transfer and seen the Brazilian link up with Carlton Cole in attack, relying on Mark Noble and Luis Boa-Morte to provide the chances. Santos obviously rejected the offer, instead keeping their starlet until 2013, when Barcelona paid a total of £71.5 million to bring him to the Camp Nou. Instead, West Ham plumped for Inter Milan's Victor Orbina, who found the net just 3 times in an underwhelming loan spell, while in 2017, as you well know, Neymar became the most expensive footballer in history. Number 3. Ronaldinho to St Mirren. In 2002, Ronaldinho shot to international stardom as an integral part of Brazil's World Cup winning squad, including netting that free kick against a hopeless David Seaman in the quarter-finals. But just 18 months earlier, the buck-toothed Brazilian almost turned out for newly promoted Scottish Premier League side St Mirren. Just 20 years old in early 2001, the future Ballon d'Or winner had already signalled his intention to leave Grêmio and ply his trade in Europe. PSG were the side though that snapped him up in a £5 million deal, but they couldn't officially sign him until the summer, leaving Ronaldinho in a state of limbo as the Brazilian season had ended, and Grêmio were not willing to integrate him into their squad ahead of the new campaign. Up stepped St Mirren boss Stephen McPhee, who proposed that the youngster move to Scotland in the short term to adapt to the European game. Bizarrely, Ronaldinho was also keen on this transfer, but became embroiled in a fake passport scandal in Brazil, which scuppered any chance of a move to Paisley. And how the Saints could have used him. They were sent straight back down following relegation. Number 2. Roberto Baggio to Derby. In the summer of 1997, Ronaldo's move from Barcelona to Inter Milan saw him become the most expensive player in world football. But only weeks prior, another player almost took Alan Shearer's record, as Roberto Baggio was firmly on the radar of Derby County. Yes, a side that are only notable in the last 30 years for having the worst season in Premier League history almost broke the bank for Baggio. Despite being just 29, the 1994 FIFA World Player of the Year had scored just 20 goals in the last 3 seasons, a run coinciding with his penalty miss that lost Italy the 1994 World Cup final against Brazil. Unsurprisingly, Baggio was no longer a part of Fabio Capello's plans at Milan, prompting Derby boss Jim Smith to launch a £16 million bid for the Italian striker. The divine ponytail turned down a move to the East Midlands, instead moving to Bologna, where he'd net 22 goals before joining Ronaldo at Inter Milan the following summer. Meanwhile, the Rams picked out Fiorentina's Francisco Baiano to lead the line at a more reasonable sum of £600,000 $650 grand, and this Italian's return was far less impressive than you'd imagine Baggio's would have been in the Premier League. Number 1. Lionel Messi and Andres Iniesta to Rangers. Between them, Andres Iniesta and Lionel Messi have made over 1,300 appearances for Barcelona, with the Spaniard being awarded a lifetime contract by the club and the Argentinian becoming the best player in history. But back in 2004, their careers could have started in a very different manner, as they were courted by Rangers. Back then, Rangers regularly traded the Scottish title with Celtic and featured in the Champions League, whilst having names like Andre Kanchelskis and Frank de Boer in their starting 11. So the signing of two La Liga prodigies wasn't entirely far-fetched. How coach Alex McLeish came to find out about them, though, is as his son John discovered the pair on Championship Manager. After a bit of persistence, the Rangers boss made first contact. His inquiry for a 17-year-old Messi yet to make his Barca debut was rebuffed immediately, but the Iniesta move almost came to fruition. The 20-year-old had made just 17 appearances in his first 2 professional campaigns, and Frank Rijkaard was keen for him to get some action. However, an injury crisis saw the youngster feature and ultimately impress at the Camp Nou, whilst Rangers fans wondered what could have been.
That's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure you hit the like button down below and tell us what you thought in the comment section. And why not check out the video on screen? I'm sure you guys will love it. As always guys, subscribe to the channel and we'll see you later.